this idea of Howard Carter, a man without a PhD, working class artist background, who's been working in Egypt for a couple of decades, looking and looking for this tomb that he knows is there of this lost king, and no one believing him. And one funder, Lord Carnarvon, saying, we've been looking and looking. I'm going to give you one last shot. This is your last season. We've been looking all of this time. You go ahead and try. And they're able to find that first step down into his tomb, a second step, a third step, a whole staircase, and they go down to the bricked up wall that is sealed. Carter then breaks open that bricked wall. He sticks a lamp inside. He peers inside, and people say, "What do you see?" And he says, "Wonderful things." That story is amazing, and it really sticks with us. It's something that excites our curiosity, our wonder of what the ancient world is and all that ancient Egypt has to give us. And so when the modern Egyptological brain, Zahi Hawass, the man who has until recently been in charge of the Ministry of Antiquities and is all over your Discovery, History, National Geographic channels, when he started to work more on the mummy of Tutankhamen, the tomb of Tutankhamen, other aspects associated with Tutankhamen, we treat him as another discoverer, and we see that he's examining the cause of death of the boy king, or what the tomb is really all about. And we just need and want to know more about this ancient king through the discoverer. It's a very pull yourself up by your bootstraps American story, and something that excites our curiosity a great deal. Now, the wonderful things that Howard Carter found took over 10 years to clear from his tomb, from Tutankhamun's tomb, which is something you don't often hear about. You hear about the grand discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun in 1922, because we are now at the 100-year anniversary. You hear about how hard it was to fund the expeditions, how it was the last season, but the slog of going through all of the objects, photographing them, cataloging them, analyzing them, moving them to a safe storage space, exhibiting them into a museum. All of this, we kind of sweep away, and we treat it as a fait accompli, that you find something wonderful and then boom, it's done. It just appears in the museum for our consumption. And it's much more complicated. And this discovery, it really changed Howard Carter's career. It changed the way he worked as an Egyptologist. It brought him out of Egypt and very much into England and on tour throughout the world. Much of the rest of his life after the clearance of this tomb was spent doing talks in different cities and different places, a very lonely life. And when Howard Carter was buried, I think only 2 or 3 people showed up at his funeral. One of them was Lord Carnarvon's daughter, Evie or Evelyn. But just look at the wonderful things that Howard Carter devoted his life to finding. So on your right there, you see the solid gold inner coffin of King Tut, Tutankhamen. And that solid gold coffin weighs some 269 pounds of solid gold, which is an astounding treasure to find. And of course, on the inside of that, Howard Carter found a solid gold funerary mask. These are the most famous archaeological artifacts in our human estimation, arguably, and they are things that you could probably close your eyes and see in your mind's eye. They are that famous. So these wonderful things, they excite us. We wonder what it would be like in the tomb in the dead of night, holding our lamps and torches and looking at this king's face who hasn't been beheld for thousands of years. These are the kinds of things that excite our fancy. And it doesn't hurt that these things are made with solid gold, because we ourselves are obsessed with treasures. We are obsessed with cash and wealth. We are obsessed with what it means to be a billionaire, or who is a billionaire in our world. We're just gobsmacked over those amounts of cash and who had them, who had that power. And kind of like groupies, and I talk about this in my book, The Good Kings, that we are all Pharaoh's groupies. We all want to be in association with these men who had so much wealth. So we go and see their exhibitions. We learn about their treasures. We learn about their families and their lives. We feel like we're reading them in People magazine, which is an interesting way to approach your history, but it certainly makes it more palatable for most of the public. It's not dry and boring. It's like reading an Us Weekly where it's stars who are just like us.